Hello, beautiful beings. How are you? It's crazy hair day. I wanted to make a little video to just recap some of what we have talked about with journeying. If you're seeing this and you haven't been in the 3-part program of earth-centered healing and shamanistic tools and shamanic journeying, then enjoy. And if you are in the program, you'll have more specific details of what I'm speaking about. I am going to look at your notes and work with, kind of go down and make sure we address everything. So, to start, I am so curious about how journeying has gone. So if you are doing the course, then you have already met a primary helping spirit, and they can change if you're journeying and they haven't been working for you. That's okay, we can change that. But you have experienced a process of journeying, you've experienced meeting a being, and you've also experienced getting some helpful tools for integration. Now, I did emphasize, and I will emphasize again, the importance of intention and the question you seek when you do your journeys. So I hope that is still the case, and that is so important because so much of shamanism works with metaphors, and so you want to have that lens. So if that has been confusing or you need help with finding your intention and your question, that is part of building the muscle of these journeys. When we do an intro class, you're starting to develop a muscle, but I want to make sure you know that this isn't the end all. This is something that is a vast, vast body of work. It is a body of work that is 50,000 years old. That's not really a body of work, actually. It's a genre. It's a genre of healing and living. I would like to emphasize that earth-centered healing arts is a new way of life. So you're not just learning a tool, you're being invited into a whole new reality, a whole new way of living. It's a way of life, a way of staying interconnected and communicating with the invisible world of your own inner intelligence and dreams, with other dimensions, with the animals and the earth. And it is building those muscles to be able to live in that way. So some of the ways that we build the container, we set the tone for a powerful connection, a powerful journey, and to be able to create a space to go into an altered state. Altered states, the word altered, to be altered is to change your perception of things. And some of the ways that we have been working with setting the altar up, talking about the intercession of love, doing a practice that helps us to be heart-centered, and then working with the incense and that smoke, right? Even mimicking the smoke with your hand for a moment, and just feel how we move from logic mind to the creative, intuitive mind. Beautiful. You feel that? Beautiful. So rest assured, if you are journeying and fell asleep, or you're not getting the succinct movie that everyone else seems to be getting, that was me in the beginning. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That's just a stepping stone. And you'll find your way, and please stay in dialogue with me about that. But so as we are developing these new tools and this new capacity, this new way of life, we have to navigate some old ways of being. And if we are used to doing and doing and doing and putting our attention on busyness, then, or if you're more extroverted, the journey work at first can be difficult. It can difficult in that you can fall asleep. You can have certain expectations of what you want to see. And really, this is an invitation for you to awaken your senses and allow newness in. And so you may not get the story that you're used to when you watch a movie or something. You may get sensation. You may get a metaphor. You may get a feeling. Let's just jump right into how information comes, called the clairs, the clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient, and the fourth one, claircognizant. These are just big fancy words for how do you experience the information, the guidance, the relationship, the visionary state. We are talking about a kind of mediumship here, a kind of visionary state, altered states, traveling into dimensions, into the dream time, many varieties of what occurs. But excuse me, the most common that we get attached to is clairvoyant, which is the visual, seeing visions that show us metaphors or show us the way. But another very common one is clairaudient, and that is hearing things, hearing that inner voice. And let's talk about that inner voice for a minute. Part of developing the muscle and this new way of perceiving and living is understanding and starting to differentiate the different voices in your head, so to speak. You know, when your mind tells you things, that we understand the voice of our inner critic, the voice of our ego, and we understand the quality of the visionary voice that comes. It tends to be a little more grounded. It tends to feel kind of calm and even. And it's not going to tell you, it's trustable. It's not going to tell you to do things that are hurtful to yourself or others. It's a calm voice. It's not an urgent voice. It'll just, constantly just remind you of things. And it's not a voice that's attached to outcome. So you'll start to understand, part of the practice is starting to understand these concepts and just starting to, again, work the muscle and have a living experience of them. The other two are more vague. Clairsentient is a message that comes through feeling and knowing. It's like you get a gut feeling. You just kind of suddenly know. And then the claircognizant is when, I'm so sorry, you get the downloads or the uploads. You're kind of hanging out and in a creative process. Maybe you're drumming or you're relaxed. Sometimes after, having sex is a very powerful shamanic act. And that can open up all of our senses and our visionary pathways. So that would be like a claircognizant, where we just kind of get the download. Just download from spirit, from our higher self, from another person, from the union. So these are things to watch out for and to start to learn yourself as a practitioner. In the beginning of shamanism and these shamanistic lifestyle, you pay a really close attention to yourself, because it's essential that you learn how to connect with these spirit guides with your own sense of how information comes and how to take care. We talked about spiritual self-care, energetic hygiene, that kind of thing. What are some of the ways that that we that we discussed? I'm curious. I hope you filled out your worksheets. Some of them are working with the incense, working with the plants, and the integrative methods. Some of you got lay on the earth, or get a hug, or do some movement, or get some food. These are some common ones. So again, the thing I want to reiterate is that the earth-centered healing arts are a new way of life that helps you to awaken your creative power and experience new perceptions of reality, new realms of perception, feeling, and dimensional travel. And it also gives you the capacity to receive guidance, connection, healing, and information. So I'd love to know what some of your questions are. One question we got this week was, where is personal growth and shamanism overlapping? So the shamanic journeying is a way to connect with spirit guides and be in partnership with the spirit world and with our guides. And like I said in the beginning, it's very much about self-understanding. But we can start to shift that once we have and build a strong foundation in these tools, in these art forms. We can start using it to intercede with love on behalf of the earth or others, working with healing the planet, the waters of the planet, very traditional job of the shaman or the visionary, the healer, the medicine man or woman in a tribe was to sense where the food was, where the animals were, where the hunt should be, and working with the weather was a very big part of traditional shamanic practice. These were very practical practices in that these people in the tribe were not practical, but the tribe needed it for practical survival. So these were people who lived a little more on the outskirts of social life, day-to-day life, who lived a little outside of the box, so to speak. People like us who are just a little bit different, a little more sensitive, a little more empathic, a little more need for personal space. So shamanism was a very communal art form and practice, and yet these seers, these people, needed that downtime as well to practice and to listen, and they were very needed and made use of in their communities. So where are we with modern shamanism? Modern shamanism is often called neo-shamanism. As a global culture, shamanism, the word shamanism is kind of being reclaimed by the Siberian Russian traditions, and asking that it be honored and not be used by the global community. So we are beginning to use different words like earth-centered healing, and we just recently received understanding that we can use shamanistic. And so you'll start hearing me interchange shamanistic and earth-centered healing. And there's some reasons for that we'll get into later, maybe in the course. So we're going to be moving into shamanic sound, working with the rattle, the drum, and the voice. Now, these are the oldest three medicines. These are the ways that we would bring ourselves into altered states, heart-centered states. Remember, I want to keep coming back to the heart. back to this interconnection of heart with all of our surroundings, all of our community. So we start to start to feel that capacity. So this is where I believe the overlap happens. Shamanism traditionally has been a heart-centered practice. And the more that we focus on opening the heart, altering out of the logical mind and into the heart, and start intersecting with the world from that place, and that creative power that gets generated, I believe that is a very potent way to have self-transformation. Now, the thing is with these tools, shamanism has traditionally been, again, about community, about helping the tribe, about helping each other. So it's a little different than like a guru path, which I've walked and walk that path, where it's specifically about self-realization. And shamanism is a little more day-to-day and practical, even though we keep talking about getting out of the practical, logical mind. But shamanism, again, is a way of life, the day-to-day way of life. And it's a way of interconnecting with our world, with our people, with what's needed. So it starts to be kind of a way of activism, if you will. Now, personal realization comes from in many ways. Because shamanism is helping us get out of our mind and into the heart and interconnectivity, and to listen to body intelligence, to the ancient ancestors, to the earth. I personally believe that this is a path to our soul mission, to understanding our soul path. And so I believe it very much intersects with our personal brightening. I've never met, every community of shamanic practitioners that I've met, they're very generous. They seem to live in wonder. And one of the core principles of shamanism over the years has been joy. To be in wonder, interconnectivity, and joy with each other, with the earth, with the animals, and the ancestors. So in that way, I believe that our self-understanding and self-growth is very much supported. And with every step each day of our lives, we can go in and ask. We can intercede into ourselves when we are having a hard time, when we're angry, when we're perseverating on fear or anger, and reshape ourselves. Shamanism, there's something called shape shifting, and it's a general word, but in shape shifting, we can also shift emotions. We can shift out of mindset, and that's what we become masterful at doing. I wouldn't say I'm masterful at that yet. I know a lot about it. It's been a couple decades, and I definitely feel masterful at some of these practices, but applying it to yourself and into the moment-to-moment challenges of being human is it's a really advanced experience. And that's why doing it together in community and practicing. That's why coming into a beginner class or a medium class, wherever you are, it just keeps strengthening the muscle and the creative power you need to choose this as a personal growth path. Now, because we're tapping into a kind of creative power, and we live in a dualistic planet, power can be used for good or bad. And there definitely is dark magic, black magic in the shamanic lineages. And you do have to be careful when you go to other countries, because you have to understand other countries, this way of living is, in the earth-centered cultures, is ancient. And so there sometimes are ancient grudges still happening. And you can come as an American and step right in the middle of those, shamanic warfare, it's called, and not know anything about it, which really got me on this path to help people know kind of the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s of this work. So if you are called anthropologically or spiritually to understand this in deeper levels, you really have your little toolkit. You know that you can power up with your power animals and your helping spirits. You're in partnership, and you can start to call on them throughout your day, all the time, to help give you grounding and guidance, and to really help with overwhelm and feeling isolated or being a sensitive person and not knowing what to do with it. This is what you can do with it. All right, we're at 20 minutes. Let me see what we didn't go over. So we talked about the prayers, how important it is to keep practicing the intercession of love. The burning bowl, really important with the smoke. We did the spiritual hygiene practices. Let's talk about the realms for a moment. I am so curious, as you are beginning your journeying or just starting back up again, it's traditional to start in the underworld, to start in a landscape that would be kind of middle world, to be able to find your way down into the underworld. And that is the place where we can really work out and find guidance for the base chakra of belonging, of getting guidance on who we are, what we want, where we belong, our sacred mission, these kinds of things. And the second chakra, which is, it can also be sexuality or masculine, feminine dynamics within or in partnership, our life work, this kind of thing. So all the realms are interconnected, especially the middle realm and the lower realms. And there's usually a way you need to pass through. Like we rise up into our landscape and we kind of rise into the middle world. And the underworld, we find that tree to slip down, or the volcano, or the hole where we slip in. And that is taking us out of ordinary time where anything can happen. And that's why we want you to start in the underworld, because it's harder to journey in the middle world where you're used to things making sense in a certain way. So until you grow that muscle of permission in your own mind, the underworld is a great place because it's filled with roots and caverns and all kinds of mysteries that your creative power can unleash rather than being limited by our cultural norms. So that's why it's so wonderful to go in the underworld first. And it is nice to work with the core energies of the base of your body. Now, we will get more to the upper realms in the music class, but the upper realms, the upper realms often have a little barrier of some sort that you have to cross through. And again, it's because we're getting out of that rational understanding of clouds or planets. We're just kind of getting through, and we're getting into the upper dimensions. And this is where our visionary self, our crown, our higher self, our voice, our heart can start to find guidance there. So I'm curious how your sessions and journey sessions have been going. And I've heard some things, and I'm just real proud of everybody for taking the time. And let's see, I think we got the key concepts of shamanism. Excuse me. So like we said, we want to set up an altar and invite our spiritual allies to protect us and hold us in the space and show us the way. We want to slow everything down and help ourselves get into an altered state. Again, that can be drumming, it can be dancing, it can be shaking, it can be breath work. Yeah, so we'll keep going over that. But I'm curious, what method of altering state has been working for you? And let's see if we can find one that keeps you sober. That's not a substance. That is what I'm really interested in, because I'm really interested in these practices being kind of a go-to and a meditation for you to have in the midst of the world, in the midst of your life, kind of being in chaos or being bombarded with energetics. So we really want to get this down, because if you do like doing medicine journeys, then these understandings are just going to really support those going even deeper and feel more contained in it. So one last thing I want to talk about is something that we call the sixth sense. So shamanism is so much about calling to your senses, the five senses, also the extended senses or the soul senses, things like foresight and empathy, intuition. So there are lots of theories on our senses. Rudolf Steiner has a 12-sense system of the body that work with each of the zodiacal signs. That is something I work with a lot, but you don't need to know all of this. You just need to understand that you are a sensing being, and these journeys appeal and give messages through all of the senses. Yeah, so it's not just the visual, like we said. It's going through, and if you're having a journey where you're laying on the rocks, what's really going to clarify that vision is what your intention and question was. So if it was to find a healing method, then you know water and rocks is your go-to. If you were trying to meet a helping spirit and you don't see anybody, but you're just sitting there on the rocks in the water, you might, the spirit of the water or the stone beings might be coming to you, and you just need to do a deeper journey, another journey that asks, how will the water spirit or the stone spirits come to me? How will I recognize them? And then they might come in a form. I get all the times that, am I making this up? In the beginning, we all feel like we're making it up. The thing is, we're inviting a really vast holographic universe, interdimensional universe, to meet us in our thinking brain, in our feeling body, to give us messages. So that's just a whole lot of energy and information coming in. And part of building the muscle is validating the visions and experiences and sensations, and having the community or a guide to help you decipher, what means what. There's not a right answer, but in talking about it in community can help you perceive the metaphor or the medicine that's coming through for you. So just take a pause now and just write anything down, anything that's like, oh, that. And I have some closing words about the sixth sense and the messengers. So when we start journeying, this sense, your senses are a way of receiving information. It's also a way of giving out information to the universe about you. So you may start to notice that you're seeing things that are in your visions, or you're sensing things that were in your journeys. You might start to see animals that you're connected with, or like coming in a very strange, unusual way. And this is wonderful. It means you're widening your perception. I had a rat today, which I've never seen a rat anywhere around my house or in Boulder, but they're here and they're darling. But he just looked in the window. So I've been really sitting with the messenger of rat and what that was about, because it was unusual. And that's what you can pay attention to as well. The animals, the nature, the wind, what's happening. One of my shamanic teachers years and years ago, when I was down in Guatemala, we were not allowed to read books or anything on shamanism. It was his belief that you wake up in the morning at 4:30. We did this for 10 days. And you make a fire, a sacred fire. It's a fire that is asking for intention. And then as the sun is rising, you watch what's happening. And it is your creative mind that's going to decipher that. But we were not allowed to read a book about it. We had to just watch and decipher what it was telling us. What was the day telling us? How the day was unfolding. How was it showing us what was going to happen that day? Now, sometimes when you're learning, or it still happens to me, you want to reverse engineer. You might not know at first, but it's at the end of the day, you're like, oh, that's what that meant. That's what that flock of seagulls meant, you know. So always good to have a reflective moment in the beginning and the end of the day to kind of piece together all the support, intelligence, and the guidance you've been given, and so you can really see it. So let's talk about the sixth sense. So we awaken up our senses, and then the senses inside our visions start to wake up too and show us things through our senses. But when all those five senses, the five sense model, when all those senses are starting to work together and in harmony, something emerges, and it's called the sixth sense. And this is like a bit of an extra sense, and it's often thought of as perception or intuition. And this can come in the form of being able to speak to the spirit world or to your beloved dead. Just reading the notes here to see what you have. I think that's all about that. I just wanted you to know that sixth sense tends to weave all the sensory information together. And that's often where you get that clairsentient feeling, that sense of just knowing, or the download. So pay attention to that. Those are fun. Pay attention to activating and validating every sense. And in that, they can weave together and create that sixth sense. So that's really powerful. Like I said, if you're falling asleep or not getting the visions you want to, that's perfectly normal. And please let me know, because we can keep working with that. But I do think where we're going to next, and working with the voice, the rattle, and the drum, you're going to really experience, I want to say, like a new portal, a new portal of perception. And that is very powerful to have access to. And we are very much activating your creative power again in a renewed way. If you're guided here, I believe you're asking for that in some capacity. So you're going to get this. This video is coming in an email. Please, if you've filled out your worksheets and you have some questions, let me know. You can text or email or just ask them in class. I've talked to most of you already, and it'll be a sweet class. I think there's going to be five or six of you, so that'll be a nice number. And enjoy yourself. Just enjoy yourself, and this will all come together. I promise you. And take the pressure off. if you have some expectation that you're supposed to be doing anything or it's supposed to look a certain way, it's not. It's your private journey. And please just pay attention to what is happening, not what you think should or shouldn't be happening. That's another muscle. What is happening? What are you drawn to? So, my dear, again, shamanism is a way of life. These beginner classes are just really just planting seeds. So be in touch. And just looking through the notes. Here's a cool question. What are helping spirits and power animals, and how do they meet? How do you meet yours? And then what are herbal allies? How do you find herbal allies and spirit allies, spirit helpers? Simply by asking and finding a way to have these talks and discussions. Let the PDFs be a springboard for you all, but it's a powerful practice to support each other in this. So you find your helping spirits and your animals by doing the journeys, or by noticing that you're just getting a visitation from them often. So say you keep having a hummingbird come to you, and then it comes into your house, and it's really, animals can initiate us. And I walked with fox all year because when I was doing ceremony at the Star House, a black fox sat right at the post that I was tending to, Scorpio, and he looked at me, and then he went back and laid down. And for the whole time I was there, he just was very content. And it was very powerful. So I've been starting to work with the message and the medicine of the animals, and specifically the ones that come directly to me. This rat, this fox. And they become, again, your helping spirits, your guides, they become a very essential part of deepening into the practice. So I think that's a good place to end. Please let me know any of your questions. I'm very, very much looking forward to our second module, which is shamanic music. This is really the origin of shamanistic lifestyle, and it all may seem really familiar because our cellular memory has been living this for many, many years. So you might say, oh, I feel connected to plants. Oh, I feel connected to the earth. And we're going to work with that more and more. But this coming week, tomorrow, is vibration and sound. And this is what ends up being transferred from mama to baby. You start with that vibration, and then start from the vibration, make movement and sound. So we're going to be working with the origins of sound and how it has the power to awaken your creative power and to support you day to day, so that you can start to support the world and the world leaders in sacred activism. And that's another class. There's a lot of details to that. Right now, I just want you to get to know yourself, what you need from these experiences, what you need from the community to feel whole, balanced, seen, expressed. Okay? All right, that feels like a nice recap. And if you can't come this week, make sure you come to the last one. And if you'd like to make a makeup class before I leave on the 28th or return on the 16th, that gives you a little bit of time. So that would be marvelous. Happy to do that. And we'll close now. Okay? So we put our hands on our heart and our belly, and go deep inside and see if you can hear the thumping of your own heart, of the drums, of the laughter. Good. Thank you for your time. We'll see you soon. I'm so excited to work together and continue the path of the shamanistic toolbox. We'll see you soon.